Welcome. The audio for today's presentation is being broadcast over the computer speakers. Please ensure your volume is turned up. If you have any questions or comments, you may type them into the chat box at any time, and subject to time, questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. My name is John St. Rose. I'm a Senior Technical Manager at Omlis. I'll be hosting the webinar today and managing the chat forum. I've worked in the mobile payments industry since 2007. I started with a company called FireOn Systems, the third largest mobile payments terminal manufacturer at the time. There I gained invaluable insights into mobile payments. Also joining us is Simon Cairns, the Director of Orion Software and Services and a member of the Omlis Distribution Partner Network. Mr. Cairns has extensive experience in delivering banking and payment technologies. He established Orion as a worldwide leader in identity theft prevention through gathering a network of software solutions. Simon will now say a few words about himself and why Orion are delighted to partner with Omlis. Over to you, Simon.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. My name is Simon Cairns. As John mentioned, I run a company called Orion. My background has been the last 20 years in selling straight-through processing and credit card processing and anti-fraud solutions to retail banks, retailers, insurance and travel companies throughout Europe, Middle East and Africa. Orion, as a security and cyber solutions company, have been looking for a solution for the past year since recognizing the impending growth plans and the adoption for mobile payments. Given the security issues already affecting the e-commerce market, it was clear that the adapting existing technology wasn't going to be enough, as the malicious out there, as we all know, have already understood and developed experience in exploiting their weaknesses and loopholes. Omlis, we felt, were the right answer, as theirs is a solution designed with the issue in mind and has been created from the ground up to tackle this. Back over to you, John.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. And finally, I am pleased to introduce our third and principal presenter, Richard Jolly, Strategic Partner Director at Omlis. Richard has 14 years experience in the card present, card non-present, and mobile payments acceptance and processing. I will now hand over to you, Richard.
John, Simon, thank you for the introductions, and thank you all for participating in today's webinar, Securing Legacy Systems for the Mobile Channel. This webinar will examine several of the security weaknesses in the financial services sector. Main content points are drawn from a recent Omlis report called Data Breaches: An Inside Perspective, and a series of shortly to be released white papers from Omlis. Collecting insights from our own partner and customer relationships, these have helped Omlis to gain a wider appreciation of the issues facing financial institutions and have provided a much firmer view of the current systems and processes in terms of securing the mobile channel. Additionally, it has reiterated the accelerated demand for new technologies and more creative thinking within mobile security. We have identified several core institutional challenges and in turn formulated some clear alternative designs on what financial service organizations can do to address the security challenges tablet and smartphone touchpoints provide. Before I start the main presentation, I think it's practical and pertinent to state who Omlis are, our key technology, design, vision and objectives. Omlis is a mobile payments and data security solution that was designed uniquely for the demands of the mobile channel. Using a unique encryption method that protects payments and data, Omlis securely protects, without any degradation in customer experience, who I am, my identity, and what I have, my money. Our vision is to establish a new and higher standard in mobile security, delivering the greatest level of trust and convenience for consumers and organizations. It can come as no great surprise that a report by Adaptive Labs showed that 43% of UK consumers are now using banking apps, and over 1/3 use them at least once per week. 25% of Europeans are now using banking solutions in the mobile channel, according to ING. And in the US, unsurprisingly, the transformation from traditional branch-led to mobile channel consumer engagement has been even more rapid. Banking via smartphone is expected to jump from 52% to 62% over the next 2 years. A pick and mix of stats which conclusively settles that there's been a continual and progressive uptake of mobile banking solution across all geographies. And I doubt there's really any much value in labouring this most obvious point. However, and this is what's motivating on this, the fear of fraud remains the main factor in slowing down the adoption of smartphone-based payments, particularly amongst UK consumers, according to a recent Experian report. Experian go on to state that 46% fear identity theft, while 60% of smartphone users said they had no malware protection on their devices, leaving them very vulnerable to hacking by cyber fraudsters. The very nature of mobile devices, their mobility, adds an element of vulnerability that isn't necessarily a worry on other platforms. Simply losing a smartphone or tablet and leaving that with the wrong person can now lead to a compromise that is as serious as having malicious software mine through your systems. As data has become an increasingly more valuable corporate asset, hackers and data thieves continue their relentless drive to frustrate protection measures, especially in the weaker mobile channel. As we have seen with recent examples at Sony and Target, a serious data breach can cause immeasurable damage to a corporate's brand. Consumers and organizations are justifiably concerned about security. The mobile channel does pose a high threat to consumers and organizations due to compounding threats like malware and overall weak security, because after all, mobile solutions have typically favored convenience over security. 90% of mobile banking apps reveal basic security weaknesses in an IOActive research on 40 of the 60 most popular banking apps. The report continues to state that most apps contain non-SSL links. Half were vulnerable to JavaScript injections. 40% were vulnerable to basic man-in-the-middle attacks. Now, given that IBM commissioned a recent report and stated the following: the average cost per capita for a security breach in UK financial services is £137. It simply begs the question, if the mobile banking apps are so at risk, why are banks not increasing their focus and investment in shoring up this most obvious area of vulnerability? Our report and our research concludes that the main problem originates from organizations being unable to effectively and systematically update their legacy systems for mobile channel. So we will look at why they don't and or can't update, and we will show you by approaching the challenge from a different angle how financial services can consider a more pragmatic security policy. We interviewed a range of security experts who have experience working for and consulting to organizations in EMEA, APAC and the Americas. They've worked for some of the largest financial services and security organizations. We wanted to understand the core security weaknesses in mobile, where the weaknesses lie, and how to address these infrastructural challenges. We simply did this by segmenting the security weaknesses into technology, people and processes. Let's call that the triangle. Now, any one of these can be attacked. 10 years ago it was all aimed at technology. Nowadays it can be aimed at either technology or people. But even today it's very seldom processes. We then continued to attempt to respond to the requirement to transform outdated technology. and processes for the particular demands of the mobile channel. The primary problem, and one consistently stated, originates from outdated architectural systems. In 2012, the Royal Bank of Scotland suffered a computer system problem which occurred through a software update that was applied to their CA7 software, which basically controls its entire payment processing systems. The software upgrade failed, causing a huge backlog of transactions, which literally affected hundreds of thousands of customers. Many customers were unable to withdraw cash or access their bank accounts. Because of these process failures, customers were in a state of financial paralysis. Later, the then business secretary, Vince Cable, stated that the IT systems were decades out of date, and the bank was subsequently fined £56 million. Our report highlighted many reasons why organisations, not dissimilar to RBS, failed to update their systems. Logistical difficulties, like the integration with older technologies, as well as cost, are all reasons that organisations fail to update their systems for the mobile channel. Decades-old infrastructure means that organisations are now reliant on legacy systems and are resistant to change. This means that current systems rely on bolt-ons for added applications and security features. Additionally, system change is high cost, it's time consuming, and it does interrupt business processes. We've seen as consolidation in the banking community becomes even more widespread, the systems have become shared and consequently become even more complicated. Financial service organizations, we have seen, have a typical reactive response to security, instead of what is demanded, a more proactive response to addressing these major concerns. And now we're faced simply with a lack of preventative tools to adequately address these problems. Indeed, according to one interviewee in our research, the longer financial service organizations continue to patch their outdated systems, the greater the risk of misconfiguration, breach, and system downtime. This is an example of a typical system design employed by financial organizations, the three-tier architectural system. The data tier holds the totality of the organization's most confidential information, including customer records, account information, and transaction activity. The application tier executes business logic in response to the user's requests. And finally, the client tier, or endpoints, such as mobile, are the only components directly accessed by you and I, customers of banks. As more applications and endpoints have become added to this architecture, the systems become even more complex and security even more difficult to manage. The endpoints, and most specifically mobile and digital channels, are the most vulnerable as they are consumer facing. These offer a potential compromise point which is traditionally secure in the separate application tiers. As we all know, as we are all consumers, we do not take the time to adequately secure our mobile devices. In this model, security has traditionally been built up against the primary server. However, many breaches are now due to malware or attack via one single channel that then can access the main database. The patches to the system that were installed as a result of what we've seen as resistance to change leave a variety of holes and vulnerabilities for potential breach. Omnis proposed a solution that can encompass the entire architecture to secure mobile payments and data. For organizations, and we have seen there are literally many that are resistant to a complete infrastructure overhaul, Omnis offers a backward compatible, innovative security solution that is organically designed for the mobile channel. The solution is designed from the ground up to be highly interoperable. Within the Omnis system version, organizations can retain their current infrastructure by simply adding an additional security layer. The security parameters work alongside existing processes to improve the overall security of mobile transaction and mobile data access. Omnis, by employing an original encryption method that secures mobile transactions from the endpoint, the mobile, organizations can confidently secure transactions without compromising their central servers. We truly believe that Omnis is pioneering the mobile payment security industry by using a high integrity coding methodology, which has been typically utilized by safety critical security applications, more commonly seen in military, nuclear and aviation, which cannot fault. In the typical three-tier architecture, all of the sensitive data is stored in one main location. In the research, we found that technology has typically failed because of poor endpoint security. One cybersecurity expert said that simply endpoint security almost universally tends to be poor. Hackers can easily breach the system via the endpoint, in our example, the mobile device. These attacks can come from all angles, and the consequences are immense. This traditional model, patched up with bolt-ons, requires a new type of creative thinking, a strategic vision that is sympathetic to the demands to retain legacy systems. With Omnis, the security solution changes the communication channel between the endpoint, the device, and the primary server. Omnis uses a unique and highly progressive method that creates a unique key per transaction. I think it's worth labouring this point. We use a unique key per transaction. Each mobile device acts as a security touchpoint. A secure software element on the mobile device encrypts the data with a one-time key. This means that no actual consumer data is transacted between the mobile device and the internal architecture. Now, if we were to look at this from a hacker's perspective, they are now faced with a high volume of low-value targets instead of one high-value one, the central database server. Beyond spreading and decentralizing the risk, Omnis utilizes substantially more robust randomization techniques than standard key generation. We feel ours is based on unique time-sensitive variables from the mobile device itself that has no possibility of being replicated or discovered. We've shown the weaknesses in current security technology and ways in which the Omnis security solution directly faces and solves these problems that are inherent in legacy systems. Now we can look at some of the challenges faced when people are involved, which, let's face it, is unavoidable. In our research, we identified the core weaknesses that human interaction predictably introduces into security infrastructure, and then how Omnis might mitigate these challenges. Recent studies have illustrated that financial services can't push down to consumers security governance, especially for mobile. We as consumers just don't have the appetite for more and more security. We want convenience. Looking back at 2014, which has been dubbed the year of the hack, the recent breaches at IBM, Cisco, Dell and PwC, amongst many others, were all compromised due to inadvertent human error. The way that people communicate with organizations' security systems often introduces failure. Unfortunately, mobility and BYOD, which is increasingly being referred to as bring your own disaster, are the natural enemies of a network security system. Just identifying the ever-increasing network security risks in such an environment has become an unending task. Often we've seen that training is ineffective. This means that in many circumstances, employees aren't even aware that a breach has occurred. One of the experts that we interviewed as part of this research describes, look, if someone steals your car, you know it's gone. The parking bay is empty. Now if someone steals your data, how do you know it's stolen? It's still there, and a lot of organizations have had something happen to them. You know what? They just haven't noticed it yet. Another interviewee brought up the fact that when employees are aware of a potential breach, they may not feel qualified enough to take responsibility for deploying a patch. The outdated systems also cause processes to fail. In many organizations, particularly financial services, responsibility of the complex systems are separated within multiple departments, some of which are even outsourced. Trying to plug a potential vulnerability can interfere with business processes because interrupting the system due to one fraudulent transaction could mean disrupting further activities. As one security expert explained to Omlis, if a network administrator authorized the deployment of a patch and that patch causes business processes to break, they're liable. So people are reluctant to improve anything. Commonly, this results in a lack of responsibility. In larger companies, also, they face an additional challenge in assigning responsibility. The system update in our recent example with RBS is a prime example of how updates in legacy systems can break business processes, which only increases the resistance to change, making systems weaker and weaker over time. Omlis can respond to many of these institutional weaknesses and errors caused by both people and processes. This is a demonstration of how the Omlis technology reduces potential user error using automated processes and innovation. In this example, a mobile device is compromised by an attack. The type of attack is not particularly important, but the Omlis Security Protection Protocol automatically interrupts that fraudulent activity. Internal staff are not responsible for physically activating the stop. The security architecture is responsible for preventing the breach in the very first instance. Omlis automatically and instantly notifies admin staff via the control portal. Additionally, it also takes away human interaction to respond to that particular fraudulent activity. User error is removed and the technology now becomes responsible for protecting the business and its customers. Secondly, this also occurs on a one transaction basis. If one transaction is compromised or even demonstrates fraudulent activity, it is instantly quarantined and the problem is dealt with without interrupting any other activity. Omlis can uniquely prevent any downtime by simply disrupting the single act of fraudulent activity. This example highlights several key differentiations of the Omlis solution, specifically the endpoint security, which utilizes a unique protocol for distributing the risk across devices and transactions. The database server is now no longer at risk using the Omlis solution, reinventing security for the financial services industry. Current technologies and legacy systems, according to our report, are failing to deliver the level of protection required in the mobile ecosystem. Why? Because by referencing the triangle, technology, people, processes, They were all developed prior to the mobile and tablet device explosion. These security systems are constrained by outdated architecture. They simply can't fulfill the security requirements in a dynamic mobile payments infrastructure. Cybercriminals and fraudsters go where the money is, and the money has now gone mobile. M-commerce adoption levels will almost certainly decelerate if security concerns are not addressed. Therefore, in summary, Omlis offers a powerful and innovative secure payments and data technology, specifically designed for those unique characteristics and challenges of the mobile channel. We're confident we can provide you with any number of user cases. Therefore, we would very much like to learn more about your challenges and your strategic vision of the mobile channel. Thank you for listening, and I think we have time for several questions that come through the panel. One that has been submitted reads as follows. It was mentioned that Omlis uses a unique encryption method. What encryption algorithms does it work with? Well, I'm delighted that I can actually respond to that. Omlis is a modularized system. We can work with any award-winning algorithms such as AES and Triple DES and some of the new algorithms such as Blowfish. So I hope that's answered your question comprehensively. John, did you have any other further questions and answers that you'd like to satisfy?
We've had an interesting one come in. Someone's asked, what does the panel think of the Apple Pay fraud that's recently happened?
Good question.
Well, I'll actually take this one.
Okay.
The recent fraud that's occurred with Apple Pay was because the banks did not have their own mobile payment security measures in place. They relied upon Apple, but Apple are not specialized in payment security. So this meant that the fraudsters were able to add bank cards without any sound verification processes by the banks. What I'm saying is the banks must take security into their own hands to prevent this from happening again. So by implementing a mobile payment security solution like Omlis that facilitates direct-to-bank transactions, yet maintains the user convenience with additional authentication steps, additional authentication steps, allows the bank to take control of the security, protecting themselves from insecure payment processes like Apple Pay. So that's my view on this subject.
I mean, indeed, John, I think we could probably host a separate webinar just responding to Apple Pay and the vision they have of the payments and mobile ecosystem. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, for everyone, thank you for listening. It leaves me to say, please visit our website, omlis.com, or our partner, orion-sas.co.uk, to be kept up to date on our series of white papers and webinars focusing on the mobile channel. Have a great day, and we look forward to hearing from you in the very near future.
Thank you.